You're now in the studio with BTFU.
Okay, it's Glyn back at the village inn here in Paddington, which is my guest's old hunting ground. He's a man who's been involved in 5 Melbourne Cup winners, 5 Golden Slip winners, which were 4 consecutive, 3 Caulfield Cups and over 120 Group 1 races. Not only does he train horses, he's been a media personality, a racecourse maintenance provider, breeder, and was part of the FBI. Welcome to Richard Freedman.
Thanks, Glyn.
Sounds pretty good, eh?
Yeah, I think it was 4 Caulfield Cups.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I got something wrong there.
Yeah. I don't know how many more I'll win, though.
Get lost in translation, that.
It does a bit.
That's
How you been?
Very good.
Who's interviewing who here?
Well, we're going to have a chat, hopefully.
Okay.
I'm sure you're going to ask me a few questions too. The People's Trainer. Who gave you... Did that name come about because you got Auvrey to win a race, or because Dufficy gave it to you?
No, I think it was Glenn Munsey who coined that one, because I don't know how that silly thing started, but it was over Auvrey.
Yeah.
Saying, I said, oh, yes, just doing this for the battlers, and, you were riding the horse and all that sort of thing. And Glenn just said, oh, so you're the People's Trainer now. And it's someone heard, I think Duff heard it and thought,
and
that's going to stick now.
And he ran with it.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I don't mind it. It's not a bad moniker.
It's not bad at all.
No.
He was a good horse to you, though, wasn't he?
Oh, he's excellent. You. I know you rode him before he actually came good, and you said to me one day, "This will win a race." Yeah. This is when he was running last.
Yeah.
I think he passed a few horses in a race you rode him in. I think it was at Randwick one day in midwinter or something, and you said, "This will win a race." I said, "Geez, I hope so." It's the only horse I got that might win a city race, and he did.
And that was when you took your license back out, wasn't it?
Yeah. I was sort of getting out of media, scaling that down, and Will, my son, wanted to be a horse trainer, so we decided, the best way to train him was probably just do some pre-trainers to start with, and that. So I was doing that, and then his pathway was going to be through Michael's stable. I really had, scant intention to train again, but his pathway was through Michael's stable. Michael went to Hong Kong, so he said, oh, well, that's the end of that. I said, oh, no, we'll train a few horses. Let's get a few horses to train. And then I got the bug for it again.
And you started. But going back right to the beginning, you're from Yass.
Yeah.
You grew up in Yass.
Yeah.
Your parents had a stud farm, is that right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know this, but your grandfather won 3 Melbourne Cups.
Great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather, W.H. McLaughlin, Midget McLaughlin. It was back in the, I think, 1918, 1920-something. He rode the first imported horse to win the Melbourne Cup, which was a horse called Comedy King.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was a jockey. His son, my great uncle, was also a jockey. He was apprenticed in England. He rode many winners in England, and then he came back out here and trained. And he trained a horse that ran second in a Melbourne Cup, and then we've knocked off 5 of them.
So it's not a bad connection to have, is it?
It's pretty good.
One of the best races in the world.
Yeah,
or if not the.
Yeah, it's been a good race to our family, that Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, and of course, the group of you, the Friedman brothers.
Yeah.
FBI.
Yeah.
It was a pretty cool name, wasn't it?
It was.
You all used to strut around in your glasses and your fancy suits and.
Well, how that. They were just suits,
But you look pretty fancy.
Well, Lee's nearly blind, right? He can't see when there's glare. His particular eye problem, he almost becomes legally blind. So he has to wear sunglasses most of the time. And so he started wearing them, and he was the oldest brother. So we all started wearing them, and then we got sponsored to wear them. So it was, it was something.
Sponsored? That's something new?
That was new. No one had ever had a sponsor before.
Yeah. And now the clubs all want the sponsors.
No, the clubs didn't like it much, but we started the sponsorship thing for training stables, which is sort of de rigueur now.
Yeah, and that went through to 120 Group 1 or more.
More, I think we're over 130. Well, collectively,
yeah.
We're probably up in the 130s or something like that. But it's been good.
Yeah, yeah. So the FBI connotation, does that have any rollover into one of your businesses? Surveillance and remote control business for the councils?
No.
Were you a wannabe spy?
No, not at all. No, the FBI arguably was the fat, brash, and ignorant. We sort of qualified on all those 3. But no, I started a tech business while I was at Sky Racing, because one thing about broadcasting is like being a jockey. It's a good part-time job, you know. You got plenty of time to do other things.
You used to play golf, though.
I did play golf, but I had enough time to start another business, which I grew to a point, and I sold a fair chunk of last year, and it's still going, and it's going from strength to strength. So, yeah, it does wireless monitoring and control systems, but mostly for turning taps on and off and lights on and off and things like that.
Not for seeing who's coming and going.
No, we can do surveillance work, but there's liability with that, so we avoid it.
Oh, that's not a bad thing. So you recently took up training again with your son. You've mentioned that's what happened when Michael went to Hong Kong. Lee went to Singapore to train. Now everyone's back.
Yep.
So now that you've started training again the last few years, what's the difference between training back then as to training now?
Wow.
A lot more hurdles?
Oh, that's a big question, that. And I talk about this often because that's what older people do. They talk about the good old days.
The good old days, yeah.
But the thing that's most different now compared to training then is to me as a trainer, a lot of things have changed in prize money, has got bigger and all those sorts of things. But it's the expectation from owners is very different now. And I'm saying that's wrong, but it is different. There's positives and negatives to it. Owners now want to be far more involved, which can be a good thing if they want to be far more engaged and enjoy it. But then it can turn bad when it becomes untenable, where whenever the horse runs badly, someone has to be blamed. Whether it's the jockey or then it's the trainer, someone will be blamed. If the horse is no good, someone has to be blamed. They tend to you get a lot of criticism now that you never did get, which is based on things they've read on social media or heard in a podcast or something like that, which may not be relevant to their horse, but they just take that morsel and
add it to their own situation.
Yeah, add it to their own sort of concoction and come up with a reason why you're not doing the right thing.
I remember my father-in-law years ago. He was a trainer, and this is long before social media, before I came to Australia. He said to me, "The trainer's worst enemy is the owner's best friend."
Yeah.
And now I suppose
it's a similar thing, isn't it?
Similar thing now. The owner's best friend is social media or the information they're given from everywhere.
Or the guy at the pub who said, that horse you own? It starts like that. And he gives him all this good advice. And, I find that most trainers are pretty competent, and trainers who train a fair number of winners in a year are very competent.
Yeah.
And they're usually, in the vast majority of cases, doing the best for your horse, which, horses then move to other stables, and we all hear about the ones that move stables and find 10 lengths. Yeah, that's 1 out of 1,000 that does that. The other 999 don't go 1 yard better or go worse.
You know, the good horses are easy to train. It's the slow ones or the ones with limited ability that are difficult to get to the track and to win a race. Explain the typical process to get a horse to a race.
Well, it depends when you get to start with it as a trainer. Let's take it right back. You've got an owner who says, I would like to race a horse. So you go to a yearling sale. Selection is very, very important of which horse to buy. I'd like to think that between the Friedman brothers, this is a stat that's been given to me. I've never been able to confirm it, but it's been given to me, that we have bought more Group 1 winners out of a sale ring than anybody has, and that included Bart and Tommy, who trained a lot more Group 1 winners. They trained over 200 each. But in those days, a lot of horses were just handed to trainers from breeders and owners and things like that. People owned 3 and 4 racehorses who now can only afford to own 10% of one of them because of the costs going up. But they got handed a lot of horses, and they got a lot of horses from other trainers that they won a lot of Group 1 races with as well, as we did too. But I think we bought the most number out of the ring. So that's the important starting point.
So you're the breeder's dream?
No, not their dream, because we put a valuation on them. We've never been in the $1 million purchase range. So they're the dream. We're not it.
That's a stat for another day.
Yeah, that is. But once it starts there, I mean, they go usually now from the yearling sale straight to the breaker, and the breaker is breaking in the yearling. They keep it at their place for a period of time, get it rideable, usually give it a spell, get it back in, make sure it's rideable. Then it ends up in the stable, the main training stable, for short little turnarounds of 10 days, 2 weeks. Go have a trot and canter at the track, get used to all that. That goes on till about the time they're just about ready to turn 2 in the winter of the last winter of their yearling year. In July or something like that, they might come in and then have a prep that goes through to an early race. Now, most of them don't make those early races.
Yeah.
There's thousands of horses broken in,
And that's the period of time we're in now.
yeah, that's right. What we're in now. Now we're sifting through horses, thinking, I wonder if that one will race early. No, that one won't. That one won't. They usually give you a sign.
Horses give you a sign, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they let you know they're precocious and, and they're on the money.
More so for jockeys, I think. They get on one and go, this is a natural.
Yeah.
This knows what it's doing. You've ridden plenty of them and thought this is an early goer. So we get that information and go, okay, we'll continue on a bit further. And some of them make those early races and some of them don't. Some of them you have to wait till their 3-year-old year to get them to the races because they might have a problem or they're just physically not able to do it until they're that age. And some horses don't come good till they're 5 or 6. But try and find the person who's patient enough
Who's going to wait that long?
to wait that long.
Yeah, that's a hard thing.
Well, that's why there's been such an explosion in the purchase of these European horses. Because they're already 4 and 5 years old when they buy them. They've had plenty of money spent on them. They've won a race, and the buyers know that just if you get it out here, it's a good chance that it will convert that form to Australia.
Because our staying stock is so poor.
Yeah.
I think last year there was last year's Melbourne Cup, there was one Australian bred horse in the race, and it was scratched prior to the race.
Yeah.
So that's so when you're analysing a horse at the track, I know from a jockey's perspective, you get to feel the horse.
Yeah.
You used to ride track work, and
Yeah.
now you watch them.
Yeah.
Is there a big difference? Do you have to? Is it a skill watching a horse to learn, or do you rely a lot on your rider telling you something?
Both.
Yeah.
I think the advantage trainers had is they're watching a lot of horses work,
Yeah.
right? Whereas jockeys concentrating on maybe 4 or 5 that they ride in the morning.
Yeah.
I might be watching. I'm watching 40 to 50 every morning, so you do get a sort of an idea of what is good work on that day, which perhaps even the jockey doesn't have. That may feel good to him, but the time, the time for the track work and that may not, concur with that. So while we heavily rely on our best riders to give us feedback, because we need that feedback, you do need to have a sixth sense about it. And I've had jockeys, and you weren't one of them, but I had a leading jockey recently who won't mind me saying this, who has a South African accent, who was riding track work for me at the time, and came back on one and said, "This'll never win a race." Right? And I said, "You think?"
Really?
He said,
it's a big statement.
He said, "No, won't win a race." And my top track work rider at the time, who I still have, and she's excellent, she said, "I want in on this too," because she could see that there was a bet coming. I said, "I'll bet you a lunch anywhere you want to go or anywhere I want to go, that I'll win a race with that." 3 starts later, I won a race with it. It had its first start, its second, and it's won its third. And he just said, he hasn't paid yet though, by the way.
He is South African. I think I know who it is.
Yes, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I think I know who it is. And he might hide behind the fact that he's riding too often that he can't get there.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. It doesn't happen very often that a jockey actually takes money out of his own pocket to pay for something.
No, they usually want a sponsor, don't they?
Yeah, well, it's always the best way to go.
Yeah.
It's always the best way to go.
I think it is.
But on the changes of then to now, in the media at the moment, there's a lot of talk with Racing Victoria's Andrew Jones coming out and saying he wants to implement some new innovations in racing. Probably haven't been received that well. But without innovations, you stand still. Standing still, you're going backwards. So innovations have to happen. I think it's important that you get the right one to drive the sport forward. But I think whip-free races and earphones and microphones to and from jockeys in the race may or may not be the right or wrong thing. But I remember when I first came here. So you can make a decision or make an innovation. People don't like it at first, and then they get on board, and you turn the opinion around to come on your side. And an example I'm going to give is when I first came here, it was just after equine influenza, EI, and Peter V'landys was in charge of Racing New South Wales, and I'd just first come to Australia and didn't know any of the landscape of what was going on, and used to go into the trainers' huts in the morning at track work, and the jibber jabber was around, this bloke doesn't know what he's doing, he's,
Peter?
Yep.
Oh, there's lots of that. Peter, you get that every day.
But listen, this story comes full circle.
Yeah.
And I'd listen to these big racing identities not saying very complimentary things, which is nothing new in racing.
No.
Okay? Because it's all out of earshot. Fast forward a few years, 8-9 years, and we have the first Thursday dinner for the inaugural Everest race day. Okay? And up gets Peter V'landys onto the stage. He gets a standing ovation.
From the same people
From
who were
the same
bagging him.
people. And I thought, here's a guy, okay, and he's obviously proven what a great asset he is to our racing industry because he's taken racing from when I've came.
Yeah.
I think we were racing for 40,000 on a Saturday
Yeah.
to 150 or 160,000.
160 now.
And a lot of things have got a lot better.
Yeah.
And there's obviously still a long way to go. Things still have to get better. But it's just, if you get the right tonic and do the right things, you can actually get people on your side. And I think what they're trying to do in Victoria may not be the right way to go about things. I listened, sorry, I'm gibbering again, but I listened to an interview that he gave, and
Who, Andrew Jones?
yeah,
Yeah.
and Gareth Hall was interviewing him, I think on SEN. I might be wrong there, but he said, are you not upset or concerned about getting the industry participants offside if you've got this wrong? He said, no, I don't care if they're upset. And I thought, whoa.
Well, that's brave.
Whoa. I thought, surely...
I think Peter V'landys is largely immune to, what the participants think should happen. But I have to say about Peter, he's been an outstanding administrator.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I can be his heaviest critic. But I'll bear that to his face. He knows that. I used to argue with him when I worked at the AJC. And, but you don't have to agree with someone all the time for them to be a great administrator. You just got to look at his body of work. And you're right, he's taken it from 40,000 to 160,000 on a Saturday. He's boosted prize money across the state. He did deals with the corporate betting organisations when they were taking money away from the tab, which was our sole source of funding. He steered racing through all of those stormy waters, and he has done, I think, if you take a balanced view, an outstanding job.
Yeah.
Do I agree with everything? No. Do I criticise him from time to time? He knows I do, right? And he doesn't agree with me on a lot of things. But I'd like to think, I respect that he's got a great brain. He's a great negotiator. He's a fearsome adversary if you're on the wrong side of him. And for all those things, I admire him for, and I respect that he has different opinions that I do. But I'm happy with that, and I think he lives with it too, and we just respect each other that way.
I think the rivalry between New South Wales and Victoria is a good thing, because I think it drives them both to excellence. But I've got a feeling, just my own personal feeling, that these thoughts of innovations from up north, down south, I should say.
Yeah.
We're up north. Geography was never my strong point. But yeah, it's almost like they've got to do something to catch up.
I think that hasn't, look, I think it hasn't been a bad thing for the industry, a bit of competition, but I think it will reach a point where it is no longer healthy. When the innovations become Tiggy Touchwood or, even go over the top into things that are not good for racing. I think you reach a point where you need to start working as a nation, because our sport is under enormous pressure to hold its position in society. we were back in the 80s and 90s on the rise. We were gaining momentum as a sport that everyone wanted to be involved in. Since the 2000s, I think there's a lot of pressures coming from outside the sport. There's a lot more competition for people's time. There's a lot more competition for the punting dollar and for the leisure dollar. And racing has become more and more expensive. The cost of horses has become almost unreachable for a lot of people. So the owner base, while as people are owning
Smaller
bits
shares.
of more and more horses, the people who can afford to actually race horses, I think, is becoming smaller.
Yeah.
And I think we need to work together as a sport nationally to a large degree to try and compete with the other national sports and the other things that are trying to, compete for our dollars and compete for our eyeballs and time. And I think that's where the innovations will come, but they should come on a national basis because we need to coordinate the program on a Saturday. If you go to shorten a race meeting down from a 5-hour afternoon, which is a long afternoon. How many people have got 5 hours to devote to one sport in an afternoon? An AFL game is about 2 hours. A rugby league game probably soaks up the best part of 2 hours. People are used to that. A big bash league match in cricket's 2 hours. Racing is a 5 to 6 hour commitment.
It's a long day.
Even golf's trying to shorten down its commitment basis, so that they can get more participants. And I think that's where the innovations might come. And I think they have to be worked on nationally. And so competition is good. I think it has been good, but I think it'll reach a tipping point.
Yeah, there needs to be a collaboration as well, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, that's some good points. So with the autumn carnival, the spring carnival just starting, okay, what can we look forward to see out of your stable?
Not a lot. All right, and I'll be honest about that because Pavitra we're giving a very light spring to. She may not race this spring.
So, do you have anything? Did you have anything planned for her? Did she go wrong after the Oaks?
No, she just had a very, very tough first campaign where she went from running in
Kembla.
Goulburn Maidens the first campaign went right through to running second in the Oaks. So she went from a July maiden at Goulburn right through to November when she's running in an Oaks.
Was she? If you bring her, when you bring her back, will she be better suited to a shorter trip?
I think so.
Mile?
I think so. I think that's more likely.
Yeah.
I think she was so dominant at Kembla when she won that Kembla Classic at the mile, but she'd been under pressure. She only had a very short break between campaigns, spring to autumn. I don't think she recovered as well. She needed more. We couldn't give her more because of the program in autumn. She then won the Kembla Classic, and I think after that she ran second in a Group 1, where I think she was starting to feel the effects of having two campaigns so close together and so much, and I think wisely her owners, Kiora Stud, said, let's not try to push this filly too hard. She's big and raw. She's going to be a beautiful mare. Let's just give her a little bit of a rest here, and I respect that. I think that's actually,
she's back in training.
No, she's not at the moment. She's still spelling.
So she must have had it must have been taxing on her then.
It was, and mainly with her feet. Her feet are a little bit stripy and stripy feet, black and white feet. They tend to wear out with shoeing, and lots of shoeings, through that campaign. And she was just starting to feel the effects of it, and they said, let's grow some more foot on her.
Is that why she used to want to over race?
Sometimes I think.
Because a lot of times, as you know, horses over race because they're feeling a bit of pain somewhere.
Yeah.
And there's no foot, no horse.
Yeah. She pushed through. She's brave.
Yeah.
She pushed through. She was never lame. Like, we wouldn't run a horse lame, but we could just tell that it was getting to be a struggle for her.
And the good ones always try their hardest, don't they? They put them through the ringer.
I think we just, the right decision was made. Let's look to the future. It's a bit of short-term pain. I'd like to have a headline horse during this spring, but I would also like to have a headline horse perhaps for the next 3 seasons.
The next 3 seasons, yeah.
So.
And as we know, the mares in Australia, because all the colts go as soon as they they show that they got stud value. They're
Yeah.
gone. So the mares always come to the fore, don't they? So
Yeah.
to have a good mare would be very, very beneficial.
And very lucrative too, because
That's right.
seeing the price of mares, I mean, Cool and Gatter reputedly just sold for $5 million, and Forbidden Love 4.1 recently. It's not small money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. So, yes, you got to look after your good ones, which you know how to do.
Well, sometimes as trainers, you're thinking, yeah, we can get this, we can get it back to, we'll fix a feat. And then sometimes you've just got to bite the bullet and say, no, only nature can fix that.
Yeah, not just yet.
Yeah, let's just give us some time.
Yeah. Oh, well, spring's going to be great. We've got some great racing to come up. If you haven't got,
we've got 2-year-olds. We've got quite a bunch of 2-year-olds, and we may find one that races in the decent races. They're running $1 million 2-year-old race before Christmas.
That's
now,
right. Yeah.
So we may have a horse that makes it there. We do have some other horses around 3-year-olds who may
Take the
next step.
Yeah.
They may not be totally obvious yet, but then Pavitra was running in Goulburn Maidens at this time last year, and she ended up being Group 1 class. So it can happen.
Yeah. Oh well, it's been great having you in. Lovely to hear your insights. Some honest stuff as well.
We could yak on for hours.
Yeah. So anyway, all the very best with your training, and Will, obviously, Will's
he's working
your
hard.
sidekick.
He's up.
Did you bring him in to freshen up? Like, obviously, I retired because I realised obviously I was too old, getting too old. It's a young man's game. Training's not really a young man's game, but
no,
it freshens things up a bit, does it?
Look, energy of young people is great. As you get older, your energy levels to push through the hours that this takes to train horses. It's horrendous hours now. That's another thing that's changed from then to now. You're working 12-hour days regularly, maybe 15-hour days regularly, 7 days a week often.
I don't think people quite understand the lengths that you have to go to. I asked you what it took to get a horse to the races. You didn't tell me what you had to do.
Yeah, well, trainer's lot. And I'm not whinging. Trainer's been very good to me over the years. But the amount of communication you have to do is added into the pie. They've pushed so much administration onto trainers, which perhaps the regulator or the club could do, but no, let's get the trainers to do it because they'll do it. You have to manage staff who are perhaps across the board not as expert as they were, because no one wants to work the hours that we're forced to work.
Yeah.
Track opens at 4 o'clock in the morning, or 4:45, whatever it is at your track, and you're pushed to start then because the grass track opens then, and if you don't use it first with
like
your
a
good
ploughed
horses,
field.
it's going to end up looking like a ploughed paddock by the time you get out there. So that whole conversation about, you could start when you like. No, you can't. And the window shuts at about 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning. It's the most difficult, expensive, labour-intensive way to train horses you could ever devise.
Why do they have to close the track at 8 o'clock in the morning? It's not like there's a road going through the middle of it, and it's...
Now, Glyn, if you can get an answer to that, I want legal, financial, and social advice from you as well. And
listen,
also, I think you could solve the trouble in the Middle East. I think that you could do that if you can get an answer to that question.
I asked one simple question about a couple of weeks ago, and I got told I should start training. I should do this. Okay, well, I'm not training. I don't know how to train, and I'm not going to train, and I'm quite happy sitting in the chair.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you're doing very well at it.
You've explained it. You've probably explained to me why I made the right decision, maybe not to.
The hours are horrendous. They've got to change that. That is one thing that has to change.
Yeah.
The hours of work. You can't attract people to the game. Staff are impossible to get because who is going to get up at 2:30 in the morning for what is a moderate wage in today's world to work every day, Monday to Saturday, every Saturday morning, so you can't go out Friday night, and then you will be working some Saturday afternoons, some Sunday mornings, some Sunday afternoons in your 2-week roster.
You've got to have it in your blood, haven't you?
And you can go down to a cafe and work normal hours, get out, have normal weekends off, and earn similar money.
Yeah.
Why would they do it? And they're not doing it. We have to change the way we do it.
I think that's why you'd probably bear testament to this. A lot of your staff are imports.
Yeah, they're only coming out here on a lot of them on working holidays.
Working holidays.
That's fine. You can do that for a period of your life.
Yeah.
But people can't make a career out of this. They don't want to.
Only the diehards will stick with it.
And there aren't enough diehards anymore.
Yeah.
So,
You haven't got enough brothers or sons left.
well, you can breed them, but, people are having less kids now too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, so there's loads of things that are on the up, and there's a few things that need fixing.
Yeah, we need to address the hours of work. And, we are getting there inch by inch.
Yeah, but I think the most important thing is not come up with a pie in the sky idea. Actually ask the people that are at ground level what will help.
Yeah, I think there's a few things to fix before we start wanting to talk to jockeys in races.
Yeah.
Because I know what would be, if they could talk, what would be coming back the other way.
There was something on Twitter. Matt Chapman put out something, and I said, just put all the microphones and the earphones in a bowl, and it's like a lucky dip.
Yeah. Which jockey again?
You don't know you don't know who's speaking in your ear, or you don't know who you're speaking to. Wouldn't that be a bit of fun? But anyway, jokes aside, it's been great having you in. Great insight. Thanks very much, Richard.
It's a pleasure. Anytime.
And if you haven't already liked or subscribed, please do so. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit that little bell button, and we'll see you next time.